All right, today we're going to talk about Log4Shell. Now, this wasn't just another bug, it was basically a digital earthquake. It's one of the worst cybersecurity vulnerabilities we have ever seen, and believe me, the aftershocks are still hitting us. So, just how bad are we talking? Well, there's this rating system for security threats, right? It goes from 1 to 10. Log4Shell, it scored a perfect, critical 10 out of 10. You literally can't get any worse than that. A score like that is reserved for the absolute worst of the worst. And that's not just hype. Seriously, experts from IBM and pretty much everywhere else called it one of the most dangerous vulnerabilities ever. Why? Well, it all comes down to two things: its insane reach and the scary amount of power it just handed over to the bad guys. Okay, so let's set the scene a bit. Picture this. It's late 2021. Security researchers stumble upon something, a flaw, that had been hiding right under our noses, deep, deep inside the guts of the internet. And this thing was what we call a zero-day exploit. What does that mean? It means the good guys, the security teams, the developers, they had exactly 0 days warning. The hackers already knew about it. They had the keys to the kingdom before anyone even realized the doors were unlocked. So to really get a grip on this threat, you have to understand the piece of software that was at the center of it all. And here's the crazy part. It's something most people have never even heard of, but pretty much all of us use it every single day without knowing. Let's talk about Log4j. It's a free, open-source tool. The best way to think about it is like a flight recorder, but for a piece of software. Its entire job is just to write down what's happening. Errors, what a user clicked, system stuff, that's it. It's just supposed to be a quiet observer taking notes. So who uses this thing? Well, pretty much everybody. I'm talking the biggest names you can think of: Apple, Twitter, Amazon, Microsoft. The list goes on. And millions of other apps, too. Because it was free and it worked really well, it ended up being baked into the very DNA of the internet. And that's why one little flaw became such a huge global disaster. Okay, so that brings us to Log4Shell. That's the official name they gave this specific vulnerability. This is the flaw that basically turned that quiet flight recorder into a willing accomplice for criminals. It let an attacker run any code they wanted on a system. In other words, they could get total control. So you're probably wondering, how on earth does a simple logging tool become a weapon this powerful? The answer is kinda terrifying in how simple it is. Okay, here's the heart of the problem. Log4j wasn't just writing down text, it was also interpreting it. So if it saw a message that was written in a very specific, special way, it wouldn't just log it, it would actually follow the instructions in the message. It completely mistook a malicious command for a harmless note. The whole attack breaks down into 4 simple steps. First, the hacker sends a sneaky, specially crafted message. Second, Log4j sees that message and thinks it's a command. Third, the application then connects out to the hacker's server. And finally, boom, it downloads and runs whatever nasty code the hacker wants. It's like sending a letter that tells the mailbox to go rob the house. And this is the weapon. Look at it. That one little line of text. That's all it took. When Log4j saw that string, it just followed the instructions, JNDI://LDAP, and went and grabbed code from that evil website and ran it. It was really, really that easy. And once they were in, the sky was the limit. An attacker could do pretty much anything. Steal all your data? Yep. Install ransomware and lock everything up? Absolutely. Take over the device and use it in a botnet? For sure. Or, just gain complete control of the entire server. So as you can imagine, this discovery set off a massive worldwide panic. It was a race against time. Everyone needed a fix, and they needed it yesterday. But as you're about to see, patching this thing was anything but straightforward. Okay, so they rushed out a patch, but it wasn't quite right. So they released another one to fix a related problem. Then a third one. In the end, it actually took 4 different patches, all released in a few chaotic weeks in December 2021, to finally get a handle on Log4Shell and all its little side issues. It was a mess. Which brings us to the big question, right? If there's a fix, in fact, there are several, why are we still even talking about this years later? Well, the answer is kind of complicated, and it has to do with something called the software supply chain. Here's why patching was such a nightmare. For starters, most companies didn't even know they were using Log4j. It was what's called an indirect dependency. Think of it like a tiny screw inside a part that goes inside another part of your car's engine. Some studies found it buried like 9 levels deep. You can't fix something if you don't even know it's there. And then, even if a company did find it, they couldn't just patch it themselves. Nope. They had to wait for the vendor of whatever software they were using to push out their own update. It was a huge waiting game. And that brings us to today. You could say the main fire is out, but there are thousands of little embers still glowing out there, just waiting for a breeze to spark back into a full-blown inferno.
Get this. This data is from almost a whole year after all the patches came out. And even then, a staggering 25%, 1 in 4, of all Log4j downloads were still for the old vulnerable versions. Think about that. That means brand new software was being built with this ticking time bomb already inside it.
And we're not talking about a quick cleanup job here. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security went on record saying that because Log4j is buried so deep in so many places, finding and fixing every last copy, well, that's a job that could take at least a decade. A decade.
Look, Log4Shell was a massive wake-up call for everyone. It really pulled back the curtain and showed just how fragile our digital world is, all built on these layers and layers of code we don't even see. And it leaves us with a really unsettling question. How many other ticking time bombs just like this one are still out there, hiding in the software we use every single day?